بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، أسعد الله صباحكم بكل خير. باسم سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور جمال سند السويدي، مدير عام مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية، أرحب بكم معنا اليوم في ندوة تحت عنوان التجربتان التنمويتان لكوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة، دروس مستفادة لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة. ونبدأ بالكلمة الترحيبية لسعادة الأستاذ الدكتور جمال سند السويدي، مدير عام المركز، يلقيها نيابة عن سعادته الأستاذ حسين هرموزي، فليتفضل مشكوراً.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، للحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في البداية يسعدني ويشرفني أن أرحب بكم في رحاب مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية، وأشكر لكم تلبيتكم الدعوة إلى حضور هذه الندوة المهمة التي عنوانها التجربتان التنمويتان لكوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة، دروس مستفادة لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، والتي تسلط الضوء على ملامح التجربة التنموية في كل من كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة، وتحلل العوامل والمقومات التي تقف وراء نجاح هاتين التجربتين بهدف استقراء الدروس المستفادة منهما في تطوير التجربة التنموية لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وخاصة فيما يتعلق بالقطاعات التي تعتمد على اقتصاد المعرفة، والتي أصبحت تعد قاطرة التنمية وعنوان التقدم في الوقت الراهن. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، لقد استطاعت كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة أن تقدما نموذجين ناجحين للتنمية، ليس فقط لأنهما أصبحتا الآن من أكثر الاقتصادات نمواً وتطوراً في العالم، وإنما أيضاً لأنهما أظهرتا خبرة كبيرة في مواجهة الأزمات الاقتصادية الكبرى التي حدثت خلال السنوات الماضية، سواء أزمة دول النمور الآسيوية في تسعينيات القرن الماضي أو الأزمة المالية العالمية في عام 2008، والتي ما تزال تداعياتها قائمة إلى الآن. فقد تمكنت الدولتان من احتواء آثار هاتين الأزمتين، ما يؤكد أنهما تمتلكان من الآليات والميكانيزمات التي تستطيع التعامل بكفاءة مع أي أزمات اقتصادية طارئة. لقد نجحت الدولتان في تعزيز مكانتهما على خريطة الاقتصاد العالمي في السنوات القليلة الماضية، وأصبحتا من القوى الإقليمية الاقتصادية المؤثرة على المستوى التجاري والصناعي والتكنولوجي، وتمكنتا من تعزيز وضعهما في التنافسية الدولية، كما جاء في العديد من التقارير الدولية المعنية بالتنافسية. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، ونحن بصدد تناول تجربة التنمية الناجحة في الدولتين، فإن التساؤل الذي يطرحه دائما خبراء التنمية والاقتصاد يتعلق بالعوامل والمقومات التي تقف وراء هذا النجاح، وخاصة أن الدولتين لا تمتلكان موارد طبيعية كبيرة مقارنة بالعديد من دول العالم. وللإجابة على هذا التساؤل، فإن من المهم الإشارة إلى القواسم المشتركة بين هاتين التجربتين التي تتمثل في أمور: أولها الاستثمار في الإنسان باعتباره ركيزة التنمية وهدفها في الوقت ذاته، ولهذا وجهت الدولتان جانباً كبيراً من ميزانياتهما لتنمية المورد البشري والعمل على تأهيل الإنسان كي يكون قادراً على المشاركة بفاعلية في مختلف قطاعات التنمية. وثانيها الاستثمار في تطوير التعليم باعتباره القاطرة الحقيقية نحو التقدم والتطور. وثالثها العمل على توطين التكنولوجيا المتقدمة باعتبارها العامل الرئيسي في استمرار التطور والنمو. ورابعها الإصلاح الاقتصادي الجريء الذي يعالج المشكلات والاختلالات الهيكلية، حيث تبنت الدولتان حزمة من الإصلاحات الاقتصادية الجريئة التي ساعدت على الارتقاء بمعدلات النمو الاقتصادي. وخامسها التركيز على اقتصاد المعرفة لتعزيز النمو الشامل والمستدام. وسادسها الاهتمام بالتخطيط الاستراتيجي في المجال الاقتصادي، وذلك من خلال تحديد الأولويات والأهداف لخطة التنمية، ووضع مدى زمني محدد لتنفيذها وتقييمها أولاً بأول لمعرفة أوجه أي قصور، ومن ثم العمل على تلافيها في التطبيق مرة أخرى. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، أن تجربتي التنمية في كل من كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة تقدمان العديد من الدروس والخبرات التي يمكن لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة الاستفادة منها، وهي تنطلق بخطى واثقة نحو مرحلة ما بعد النفط التي تعتمد على اقتصاد المعرفة، والتي تعبر عنها رؤية الإمارات 2021 ومئوية الإمارات 2071، اللتان تجسدان أهداف الإمارات نحو بناء نموذج اقتصادي يتسم بالاستدامة وتقوده كوادر مواطنة مؤهلة قادرة على الارتقاء بمكانة الإمارات على خريطة الدول المتقدمة خلال السنوات المقبلة. مرة أخرى أرحب بكم وأتمنى لهذه الندوة النجاح والتوفيق، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كل الشكر والتقدير لسعادة الأستاذ الدكتور جمال سند السويدي على هذه الكلمة. نبدأ الآن أعمال الندوة، وأترككم مع رئيس الجلسة الأستاذ عبد الله الكعبي. تفضل أستاذ.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, Honorable Audience, welcome to the Emirates Center for Strategic Studies and Research. In this symposium entitled the South Korean and Singapore Development Experiences, Lessons Learned for the UAE, where we host 4 distinguished experts and researchers in the field of development. Our first guest will be Professor Sang-Woo Nam, Honorary Professor of Korea Institute for Policy, Development and Management from South Korea, who will be speaking about the South Korean development experience. Our second guest will be Mr. Manu Bahasakaran. He's a Senior Research Fellow in the Institute of Political Studies in Singapore and will be addressing us about the Singapore development experience. Our third guest is His Excellency Dr. Abdul Latif Muhammad Shamsi. He is the Vice Chancellor of the Higher Colleges of Technology Complex in the United Arab Emirates and will talk about the UAE development experience, lessons learned from the experiences of Korea and Singapore. And our fourth and last guest will be His Excellency Mr. Badr Salim Sultan Al-Ulama. He is the Director of Aerospace for the Aerospace, Renewables and Information Communication Technology for Mubadala. Our first guest will be Professor Sang-Woo Nam. He is Professor Emeritus and former Dean of KDI School of Public Policy and Management and former Executive Secretary of the OECD Korea Policy Center. Dr. Nam was a research fellow for 20 years at Korea Development Institute, which is a premier economic think tank of the Korean government. There he worked on macroeconomic and financial policy issues and served as the vice president. Dr. Nam was also a senior research fellow at the ADB Institute in Tokyo, where he was devoted to corporate governance issues in the East Asia. He was invited as a visiting professor at University of California, San Diego, and also Sophia University and National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies in Tokyo, and has extensively been involved in development consulting, particularly for Vietnam. Dr. Nam was also an economist at the World Bank and the counselor of the Deputy Prime Minister in Korea. Dr. Nam received his PhD from Sloan School of Management from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Professor Nam, you have 20 minutes for your lecture, so the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here and have the opportunity of talking on Korea's economic development. Well, I have given 20 minutes, which will be very tough, so I may have to skip some of the slides. Well, actually, the whole Korean economic development effort, the serious effort started in the early 1960s. As you can see here, the per capita income in early 1960 was less than 100 US dollars. And if you look at the employment share of agriculture in 1963, it was 63%. Now it's less than 5%. And life expectancy at birth in 1960 was just 55 years, and now 82 years. Well, we have some fun problem here. The graph is broken, but here I show the changes in industrial structure. In the middle of 1960s, the agricultural sector accounted for almost 40% of GDP. Now it is just about 2%. And from this table, you can see that Korea is now fourth largest exporter in the world, after China, US, Germany, and Japan. And closely followed by France, Hong Kong, Netherlands, Italy. And here I put down the top 10 export products over the last 55 years. And as you can see, in 1961, all the top 10 export products are primary products. And through 1980 and 2000 and 2015, you can see now the semiconductor, for example, is the #1 item, and cars, ships, and communications, petrochemical products are the main export items. And we can hardly talk about the Korean economic development without mentioning President Park, who served as a president about 18 years. And coming to power through military coup, he tried to show the regime's legitimacy by achieving rapid economic growth. And to deliver that public promise, he did not waste any time, and he set up Economic Planning Board, which is a super ministry, planning ministry, and started 5-year economic development plan. This medium-term plan was a very serious plan, with all the financing requirements considered and all the implementation details. And being a career soldier, he was largely free from interest group pressures and corruptions. And as I would say, he did partner with big businesses. And talking a little bit about the Economic Planning Board, this is planning minister, and the minister of this board was automatically deputy prime minister, which we have only one deputy prime minister. And he was chairing so-called economic ministers meeting, and economic ministries was almost half of the whole ministries, and there all the necessary policy coordination was made. And this board also not only making the plans, but also budget preparation was in charge of EPB and handling of foreign capital. And this board was strongly supported by our institute, KDI. And now KDI, a little bit of a PR of my institute. KDI is ranked as number 6 among thousands of think tanks outside of United States. And talking about development strategy, we started in the early 60s with export-oriented industrialization. and we gave all the necessary export incentives, currency depreciation and soft loans and tax incentives, all those things. And we also, had a very important institutional, setup, like KOTRA, Korea Trade Promotion Corporation, which helped many small and medium-sized companies exploring the foreign market, for example. And another thing to mention is a monthly extended meeting for export promotion, which was chaired by president of the country himself. And every month, he gathered with relevant ministries, head of agencies, and the private sector people to see whether there's any main hurdles or bottlenecks in exports, for example. This shows how serious he was in export and economic development. And as you can see, of course, Korea was poorly endowed with any natural resources, so we had to start with assembly of final goods. And as we accumulate the technologies, we try to substitute import, starting from intermediate goods, and then intermediate raw materials, and finally raw materials. So it is just the opposite direction, opposite to the approaches taken by resource-rich countries like Middle Eastern countries. And through this export-oriented industrialization, we could overcome the small domestic market. And actually, we had no choice of no other choice than taking this approach strategy. Actually, in the beginning, Korean government was also interested in import substitution for development, but we soon realized that without adequate foreign exchange, it was impossible to import necessary intermediary goods and capital goods, which was very essential for economic development. So we had to, we were more or less forced to adopt this export-oriented industrialization. And it helped industrial competitiveness. And since we started with labor-intensive exports, it created a lot of jobs. So it was good for both growth and actually income distribution as well. But one thing which in our development strategy, one thing different from most of the developing countries was that we actually relied very little on foreign direct investment. And it was a part, mainly because our business circle was afraid of the whole industries and markets were dominated by multinational companies, particularly Japanese companies. You may say we have missed the chances of technology transfer and skill training because FDI is not only a means of acquiring, securing capital, but also foreign technologies. That might be true. And some people also believe that borrowing is cheaper than FDI. And about the technology transfer, there are some research showing that under some circumstances, relying less on FDI and working on developing our own indigenous technologies in the long run may be better in securing the necessary technologies. As you can see, the Korea, before 2000, there was very little foreign direct investment compared with Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand, other countries. And then in the 70s, we had so-called heavy and chemical industry drive. There are two motivations. One was upgrading the export structure, because by that time we could no longer compete with latecomer countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia in light manufactured products exporting. And another motivation was strengthening our defense capabilities. While confronting with militant North Korea within a short distance. And the target industry, there were as many as 6 so-called broadly defined designated industries: iron, steel, non-ferrous metal, shipbuilding, general machinery, chemicals, electronics. And I told you, chaebol, the big family businesses were very important players. And the government gave all these very significant tax incentives and financial support, and construction of industrial complexes as well. And there was a sort of tripartite partnership between the government and banks and chaebols. Chaebols are big family businesses. And government directed the banks to extend the credit, necessary credit to chaebols. And here the government was a risk partner for both banks and chaebols. But banks and chaebols, usually they didn't do their homework, simply carried out the instructions. And that's why the banks and chaebols started to have sort of a moral or hazard behavior. And as you can see, this dark blue line shows that heavy and chemical products, the composition of export started to, continually expanded. And now more than 90% are heavy and chemical products. But in that process, we had some, problems like macroeconomic complication, like inflation. And we also blamed the 2 oil shocks in the 70s when we had this heavy and chemical industry drive. So we did not have enough orders from international, from other countries due to these 2 oil shocks. That's why there was so-called excessive and duplicative investment, and we had to do very serious investment adjustment and industry restructuring. And about the chaebols, there are good things and bad things. Still, this chaebol issue is like, chaebols is a kind of love and hate, the kind of identity in Korea. And whenever we have a new government, presidential campaign, chaebol restructuring is still one of the key policy issues. And the lessons from this heavy and chemical industry drive is that when we pursue sophisticated import substitution, we should not aim for import substitution only, but also we should aim for export industries. And we need to have a comprehensive approach. Not only tax and financial support, but also technology and skill, and infrastructure, industrial complex. All those things were at the same time considered to have this whole drive to be effective. And to the extent possible, there should be consensus based in picking the industries to support. And
Professor
when the
Lam,
industries are in trouble,
you will have 5 minutes, please.
How how to support this the difficult industries. Well, when I see the Korean economic development, as the Director General just mentioned, we believe the human resource and technology was the key factors. And this diagram simply shows the interrelationship or the mutually reinforcing relationship between economic growth and human development. And when the Korea was liberated from the Japanese rule with the end of World War II, our illiteracy rate was as high as 78%. Can you imagine? More than 3 out of 4 Korean adults were illiterate. And then over a period of a little bit more than 10 years, it basically dropped to 0, or 4% by 1958. And then over time, in the progress of Korean economic development, we emphasize first the compulsory primary education, and then secondary and higher education. And you can see here, you cannot see the scale, but this shows the enrollment rate. And the blue line at the bottom shows the university, college and university enrollment ratio. And as you can see, it was well below 10% in the I think 70s and 60s. Now it's about 70%. And here also have some fund problems, but over time, from 70 to 2010, over 40-year time, the Korean adults over 25 years and over, in 70, less than 6% of the population had university education. Now, 36%. And you may ask how we could manage to have this rapid increase in education attainment. And I would say Korea going through the Japanese colonization.
Professor, you will have 2 minutes.
Land reform and Korean War. The Koreans were putting very much emphasis on education. And education was cost effective from the point of government, because we had to compromise some qualities, and also the private sector was active in educational services. As you can see, the share of private school students and the number of students per class. When I was in the primary school, our class size was over 80 students per class. Now it's about 20, a little bit over 20, I think. And I would say the vocational education was also very important. And in the beginning, in the 70s, we had vocational high school. We had sort of a renovation in vocational high school system. And at the same time, we had introduced national technical qualification. And I understand in Abu Dhabi next month, you will have 44th World Skill Competition. And actually from 1977, it usually held every 2 years. And except 2 times since 1977, Korea won the most medals. And finally, I'll be talking a little bit about the technological capabilities. And I would say the KIST and KAIST, which was built in the late 60s and early 70s, was pioneering the research activities and science and technology education. And the KIST, for example, even though I didn't put it here, by the Reuters, it was ranked as number 6 among the university, number 6 most innovative universities in the world. And KAIST now number 1 on Reuters 2017 ranking of Asia Pacific region's most innovative universities. And also, the many Koreans studying abroad, they contributed to economic development in Korea. And as you can see, now the Korea is one of the countries putting most of the R&D expenditure as compared with GDP. It's well over 4%, and about 75% are private R&D, and government only about 20%. And these circles show the size of R&D budget, and after US, China, Japan, and Germany, I think Korea is number 5. And both in terms of density of researchers and R&D.
Professor, I'm sorry, but the time is up.
We are one of the countries putting much emphasis on R&D. And lastly, this Korea's innovative capacity. There are 2 institutions compiling the so-called Global Innovation Index. And in 2017, Bloomberg ranked Korea as number 1, even though the WIPO, Cornell, INSEAD, they put Korea number 11. I think I will stop here. Just summarizing the key features of Korean economic development, I would say the role of top political leadership and industrial policy, and the state 재벌 developed partnership, and lastly, investment in human resource and development was the key factors for the Korea's economic performance. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for this insightful lecture. You have covered several issues in this presentation. You've talked about the export orientation industrialization, where Korea has become among the top exporting countries in the world, and they've talked about several issues such as the foreign direct investment also, the family, companies, the political leadership. So thank you very much for your lecture. The second lecture is entitled Singapore Development Experiment and will be delivered by Mr. Manu Bahasakaran. Mr. Manu Bahasakaran is Director of Centennial Group International and the Founder, Director, and Chief Executive Officer of Centennial Asian Export. Mr. Bahasakaran has more than 30 years of expertise in economic and political risk assessment and forecasting in Asia. Before joining the Centennial Group, he was Chief Economist for Asia for leading International Investment Bank and managed its Singapore-based economic advisory group. Mr. Bahasakaran is a well-regarded commentator on Asia financial and economic affairs and has regular columns in business weeklies such as The Edge in Singapore and Malaysia. He serves as a member of the Regulatory Advisory Board for Asia of the International Monetary Fund and the Institute of Policy Studies. He's the council member of Singapore Institute of International Affairs and vice president of the Economic Society of Singapore. Mr. Baha Sakaran has a master's degree in public administration from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University and a bachelor's degree in economics from Cambridge University. Mr. Manu, you have the 20 minutes. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the ECSSR for inviting me here to address you. I'd like to start off with a quotation from Sheikh Mohammed talking about Singapore, and this is one of the motivations for us to make this presentation today. What I'd like to do is talk a bit initially about the overarching principles. It is not as if the Singapore leadership, upon achieving self-government, went into a huddle and spent a few months and came out with a clearly defined economic model. The model evolved over time. It was spontaneous, it was organic, and it kept changing. But throughout all these evolutions, I think there are a few principles that guided Singapore economic policy, and I think I want to talk about these three principles first, and then outline the outcomes of these principles in terms of what they meant for successful economic development, and end with a few comments on perhaps how Singapore might be relevant to the UAE. So starting with the overarching principles, the first was to create a superior ability to organize society and the economy superior to that of our competitors and the neighbors. This seems very obvious, but it's actually something difficult to achieve in practice. Second principle was the avoidance of dogma, a very pragmatic approach that rejected ideological fashions of the day in favor of what actually worked. The third was an understanding that pragmatism alone would not suffice, that you had to have values infused into economic policy, and these values had to be relevant to the society and to the environment that Singapore operated in. And meritocracy, multiracialism, and so on were vital elements of our model. So let me explain this in a bit more detail. The first thing was this, how to create an ability to out-organize your competitors. And the key was really to have strong institutions. One was clearly a very competent government service that was able to deliver public goods to the people in a way that the people tangibly appreciated. That required a clean, honest, competent administrative service with good people, but it also needed well-established, well-functioning, and empowered economic institutions, a very good central bank, economic development agencies, statutory boards in charge of particular elements of the economy, such as infrastructure, and a progressively improving education system. The second element was the rule of law, to have a competent and fair judiciary and police. This is vital, not just for regulatory certainty, but for the protection of property rights. And that is vital to any successful business ecosystem. Thirdly, there was the willingness to experiment with innovative policy solutions, some of which could be politically or economically risky. So for instance, Singapore was the first city in the world to aggressively go into pricing road usage. It was politically unpopular, but it is now increasingly accepted as necessary in managing any urban area. We devised a unique exchange rate model, and without that exchange rate approach, we would not have been able to anchor monetary stability. We also experimented with different models of social housing and made that a key driver, not just of economic growth, but of political stability. And as a result, we got the basics right. And when you can get the basics right and you can out-organize your competition, then you are able to be globally competitive and to become a very vibrant and competitive regional hub, which is what drove Singapore's development. Pragmatism. First of all, it's very difficult to be pragmatic if you do not have sufficient political control. So one of the key elements of Singapore's success, I think, was an effective political system where you had a government that could think long-term and which was confident enough to take some risks without risking the loss of political control. Secondly, there was a kind of siege mentality, a kind of survival mentality in Singapore because of the very difficult circumstances of our birth, first as a self-governing state and then as an independent state in 1965. Very hostile environment which made the leadership very determined to do whatever it took in order to survive. Whatever policies worked were employed. And if it meant, for instance, wooing foreign investment when that was not the intellectual fashion, then so be it. And there was a clear understanding that the entire setup had to be sustainable. And therefore, it was not just an issue of economic policy, but politics, social issues, nation building had to be woven together as a coherent strategy. As I said, the government of the day realized that pragmatism alone was not sufficient. Values mattered. And in a very diverse society like Singapore is, with multiple races, religions, countries of origin, cultural values, this is really critical. So we had, as our founding principle, meritocracy. Success depended not on your connections, who you're related to, or your class origin, or your ethnic origin, or the color of your skin, but on your ability. Secondly, the leadership, in particular, the founding Prime Minister, had a deep-seated aversion to corruption and cronyism. And this created the right incentive structure. As Professor Nam himself mentioned for Korea, President Park ensured that there was little corruption and there was not much vested interest that lobbied for their own particular interests against the interests of the nation as a whole. And this was the case in Singapore as well. There's a strong aversion to lobby groups that fight for their own sectional interests against the interests of the country as a whole. The other element, of course, in a multiracial country was multiracialism. Every ethnic group had to be convinced that they had a stake in society and that they would be treated fairly and well. Then you had what we call Asian values, thrift, a reward for hard work, a huge premium placed on educating young people. And finally, many people have criticized Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, our founding Prime Minister, for being authoritarian and so on. But one thing never left him, and that is an intense dedication to the common man. Even if the system was not as democratic as in many other countries, public services that tangibly improved lives were delivered to the people, and the people therefore felt they had a stake in the system, and it became politically sustainable. So as a result of these founding principles, we got the basics right. What are these basics? The first, I think, is macroeconomic stability. Singapore is a tiny country in a very turbulent world, and the first thing that we needed was a strong monetary anchor, and a credible central bank pursuing a sustainable monetary framework was critical to this. So we had stable interest rates, exchange rates that were aligned with reality, and inflation that was low compared to our trading partners. And as a result, we had a strengthening currency, and the whole thing held together. The second element of macro stability was very prudent fiscal policy. Budgets are balanced over a political cycle, i.e. the life of the parliament, typically 5 years. And whatever happens, Singapore always has a surplus on the operating part of its budget. It divides its budget into an operating or routine budget, and a second component being the development budget. The operating budget is always in surplus and helps to partially at least fund the development budget. Secondly, fiscal policy was not used for cyclical economic management. It was primarily used to pursue structural improvements and economic development. The third element of macro stability was an emphasis on very conservative regulation of banking sector, which meant that we avoided the financial crises and shocks so typical of other developing countries. This is a chart that shows how over time Singapore's inflation rate was consistently lower, except for short periods, consistently lower than our competitors. And that meant that throughout the period, Singapore was always gaining competitiveness. Its costs were growing growing more slowly than the competition, very competitive. The other element of the getting basics right was the ability to harness financial resources so that development was sustainable. And in this respect, the mobilization of savings to the Central Provident Fund, which is a fund set up for retirement adequacy, was critical in the early days of Singapore's development experience. Singapore is also not afraid to pursue policies that would sound terrifying to financial markets today. At the peak, we used to run current account deficits as a proportion of GDP of something like 20%. Today, anything above 6% creates alarm bells in financial markets. But we did it because the funding of the current account deficit was sustainable through the alliance with foreign capital. And basically, foreign investments were given huge incentives, a competitive, efficient, and low-cost operating environment. And foreign investment flowed into Singapore in massive volumes, more than sufficient to fund the current account deficit and to give us an increasing pool of foreign exchange reserves and a strengthening currency. So the alliance with the multinational companies worked extremely well. At the same time, Singapore also put a lot of emphasis on developing its regional hub, the port, the airport, the trading centers, the financial equity market trading. All this also became another driver of economic growth. So economic growth was not just depending on manufacturing and exports driven by multinational companies, but we also had other engines of growth, starting with the regional hub. We also used public housing as a tool for economic growth. And at the peak in 1980, public housing construction was a major driver of growth. So we weren't just depending on external forces, but we also had this domestic engine of growth. But the really interesting thing about the Singapore public housing model was the realization that public housing was not just about constructing tower blocks. It was about creating communities, not just the buildings, but how the people interacted and felt as a community together. And that really promoted nation building in a very diverse society that was subject to intense pressures in the external environment. We had an activist government that was constantly trying to move up the value chain and discover new sources of growth. For instance, in 1968, when there was virtually no external financial center in Singapore, the leaders saw the opportunity in creating an Asian dollar market similar to the euro dollar market in Europe, and that was the foundation of the thriving financial center that you see today. And they kept evolving and changing their policies to grow the financial sector. For instance, in the 1990s, there's a massive departure from previous policies and opening up of the banking sector. There's emphasis on tourism, and so you had another engine of growth as well. The understanding for all this was that you must make things politically sustainable, and that was done through a social contract between the government and the citizens. And that created a virtuous circle, political and social stability, encouraging investment, which then created incomes and rising standards of living, which then meant that the people bought a stake in the system, and you had continued growth as well. Part of this was founded on a unique tripartite model of cooperation between the government, the unions, and the business sector. Some people say that the Singapore government pursued policies that were repressive of trade unions, and I think that is not entirely accurate. What happened was that there was a co-optation of the trade union movement in return for agreeing to labor market flexibility and some degree of controls over what unions could do. The unions were given a large place in economic decision-making and also in the economic sphere. So you had unions that created large businesses that were effectively cooperatives in supermarkets, in transportation, and so on. So the unions felt that they had a stake in the system, And that stake enabled them to deliver all kinds of benefits to the employees. So it became sustainable. Let me conclude by thinking a bit about where we perhaps went wrong or could have gone wrong. And here I'm very struck by Professor Nam's depiction of Korean development. And one of the great successes in Korea was the development of what I call inherent capacity, indigenous technology, management, and other skills. I think it is fair to say that the huge role of multinational companies and also of large government corporations in the Singapore economy means that there's a dearth of non-government, private sector, indigenously owned large enterprises in Singapore. And I think that is a weakness in Singapore's development, which is now being recognized by the government, and the government is now trying to step up measures to address that. Secondly, I think in the last 15 to 20 years, we realized that there was an
Mr. Manu, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. There was an excessive reliance on foreign workers. And the problem with this is that if you allow a huge influx of foreign workers, particularly at the lower end of the wage distribution, then there is very little incentive to companies to invest in labor-saving technology and to move up the value chain. And that means that productivity growth slows, which is exactly what has happened in Singapore. And without productivity growth, you cannot deliver continuously rising wages to your workers. So I think this is another maybe mistake that we made. And again, Singapore has realized that mistake and is moving quite aggressively to correct that issue. Secondly, again, comparing with Korea, where Korea has really succeeded in developing its own innovation capacity, Singapore's achievement is a little mixed. Certainly in the INSEAD rankings that Professor Nam referred to, Singapore ranks very high in the overall index, 7th. However, when you break the index down into innovation inputs, we are well ranked because our capacity to mobilize inputs for R&D and so on is incredible. However, when you look at the outcomes in terms of actual achievements in innovation, the outcomes are not so impressive. So when you calculate an innovation efficiency, we are one of the worst in the world. So clearly, there is a significant weakness in the creative innovation environment. And those are issues that we still have not fully understood. But INSEAD's view is that we have not spent enough on improving education. For instance, we have teacher-pupil ratio that is not as significant as in other countries. So there are these issues that the Singapore model may have showed some weaknesses in. But the advantage of the Singapore model is that it is not based on some ideological, never changing dogma, but on a capacity to keep evolving, keep adjusting, and keep adapting. So let me conclude with just a few takeaways on what implications there might be for Abu Dhabi. We are both relatively small and open states with large neighbors. We're both regional trading hubs. I think one lesson is clearly, if you're small, you need to be diversified. So building up multiple engines of growth. We had manufacturing, it's financial services, we had tourism, we had the regional hub. Second, it's vital to build a very conducive investment climate and to entice the entry of foreign firms, because foreign investment can be a shortcut to economic growth. And that means having very good infrastructure and complementing that with incentives that appeal to these enterprises. Third, you have to get the basics right in terms of overall macro stability and financial stability. Finally, I think a lot of what I'm saying really raises two issues. We are a relatively small, open economy plugged into the global financial markets and economies. These are turbulent sectors. You have to have both resilience and flexibility. Resilience in the sense that you must have the capacity to bounce back from external shocks, which will come all the time. to be able to absorb the shock and come back. And secondly, the flexibility to keep adjusting to the longer-term structural changes, changes in the structure of competitiveness, changes in technology that can compromise your existing models of growth or your engines of growth. If you have those two, resilience and flexibility, then I think you will have less to fear as you confront the mega trends that are going to change the global economic landscape in the coming years. So let me stop here, and I'll be happy to take any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manu, for this thoughtful lecture. You have covered so many issues here, such as the applied principles, the superior organization ability to strong institutions, hard-headed pragmatism, also getting basic rights, harnessing financial resources, building communities, such as the public housing, and important of social stability also, and also unique tripartite models. And thank you very much for this lecture. Now with the third lecture entitled UAE Development Experience, Lessons Learned from the Experiences of Korea and Singapore, and will be delivered by His Excellency Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Shamsi. He is appointed as the Vice Chancellor of the High Colleges of Technology in the UAE, is also an Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the United Arab Emirates University. Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Shamsi also received his PhD in Mechanical Engineering from Duke University in the United States, and also holds an MSc and BSc from Boston University. For 7 years, he served as the Managing Director of the Institute of Applied Technology, during which he led efforts to establish higher education institutions, including the Applied Technology High School, the Fatima College of Health and Science, and Abu Dhabi Polytechnic at the IAT. He has served as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Research at the United Arab Emirates University, and founded the university-wide internship and work integrated learning IWIL program. Dr. Al-Shamsi has more than 35 publications in world-class scientific and peer-reviewed journals, and has participated in international conferences. His latest publication, a series of books published in Arabic, is entitled The Making of Education. Dr. Al-Shamsi, you have 20 minutes for your lecture. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. I have my presentation in English, but I will make my talk. So if you need to translate,
I will speak.
on. في البداية أتقدم بجزيل الشكر إلى مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية، وعلى رأسهم سعادة الدكتور جمال سند السويدي على هذه الدعوة الكريمة. الحديث عن التجربتان التنمويتان لسنغافورة وكوريا الجنوبية بلا شك لها يعني آثار كبيرة، والاستفادة فيها كبيرة، كما طرح المتحدثان من كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة. ولكن حقيقة هي يمكن اختصارها في الحجر الزاوية في هذه التجربة التنموية هو التعليم، وكذلك الليدرشيب أو القيادة. لما تكون موجود عندنا قيادة مؤمنة بالتعليم، اللي هو نعتبر حجر الزاوية لتطوير العنصر البشري، بلا شك راح يكون له الأثر الكبير في التجربة التنموية. ففي البداية أحب أشارككم الدروس المستفادة بطريقة مختصرة لكلمات ملهمة لصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد خلال لقائنا معه قبل حوالي 3 أسابيع. الذي أكد على أهمية التعليم وكيف أن التعليم هو تنموية، يعني له دور تنموي، والدروس الحقيقة المستفادة التي نريد أن نتحدث عنها في هذه الكلمات المختصرة لصاحب السمو.
أنا بالنسبة لي التعليم أولوية أولى. عرفت في أول مرحلة حياتي في الشغل أن نحن ما نقدر نعتمد على الكون، فلازم نعتمد على النوعية. النوعية أنتم تخرجون وعيال أولادنا أمانة رافي رقابكم. نحن جالسين نركز على أهم استثمار عندنا موجود اللي هو العنصر البشري. الله يوفقكم إن شاء الله تخرجون أحسن عنصر يخدم بلاده بشرط شرطا عمركم ونفتخر فيهم، وبعد مو بالله نحن عيالنا يفتخرون فيهم.
الكلمات الملهمة لصاحب السمو في هذا الكليب البسيط هي تلخص الدروس المستفادة من تجارب هذه الدول. أصبحت اليوم كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة من اقتصادات العالمية المعروفة، وذلك بسبب استثمارهم في التعليم. فلما تكون عندنا قيادة حقيقة مؤمنة ورؤية واضحة لهم، والاستثمار في العنصر البشري هو الأساس، هذا اللي هو الذي يعمل الفرق الحقيقي في التعليم. باختصار كلمات صاحب السمو أكد على أن التعليم أولوية أولى بالنسبة له، وأن العنصر البشري هي الثروة الحقيقية وليست الثروات الطبيعية التي نحن نتحدث عنها، ولكن الثروة الحقيقية هو العنصر البشري والإنسان في هذه الدولة. وكذلك أكد صاحب السمو على أهمية أن كيف نستفيد وكيف يكون التعليم النوعية وليس الكم. فأكد على هذه المحاور الثلاثة اللي نحن راح نتكلم عنها بشكل أكثر في هذا الحديث. طيب، وطبعا في أشياء نحن استفدنا من تجربة كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة في بعض البرامج التعليمية، واللي أنا راح أتحدث عنها بشكل سريع. بالنسبة لسنغافورة، نظامهم التعليمي نظام حقيقة له ميزات كثيرة، وهذه من البدايات اللي نحن أكدنا عليها، أن النظام السنغافوري التعليمي اللي يجهز الطلاب من مراحل عمرية مبكرة في مسارات مختلفة، سواء في الجانب الأكاديمي أو الجانب الفني، وأن يجهزهم لسوق العمل بحيث يكونون كفاءات متميزة. وهذا سبق نشره على فكرة في عام 2010 أو 2011 من مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية، عندما سلطنا الضوء على النظام التعليمي في سنغافورة وكيف نحن ممكن نستفيد منه في دولة الإمارات. وحقيقة اليوم نحن بنتكلم عن المدرسة الإماراتية وكيف بالفعل استفادت من هذه التجربة في سنغافورة، وكيف نحن بدينا نطبق بعض الأفكار اللي موجودة هناك من أفضل الممارسات اللي موجودة في سنغافورة. في كوريا الجنوبية عندما بدأنا بمشروع أبو ظبي بوليتكنيك وطرح برنامج للطاقة النووية، كان تحدي كبير بالنسبة لنا. هذا الكلام في 2010، لأننا نتكلم عن برنامج تخصصي، برنامج مش موجود ومش معلن عنه خلينا نقول في معظم دول العالم. فكيف نتأكد أن عندنا كوادر إماراتية قادرة على التحصيل وقادرة على تشغيل مؤسساتنا النووية في 2017 اللي هو على نهاية هذا العام راح يتم تشغيله. فكان تحدي كبير بالنسبة لنا. استفدنا من التجربة في كوريا الجنوبية في هذاك الوقت، وتعاقدنا مع شركات معروفة في كوريا الجنوبية، وشفنا البرامج المطروحة، البرامج التعليمية في مجال الطاقة النووية. وكان بالفعل هذه كانت بداياته اللي وضعنا الأساس لبوليتكنيك أبو ظبي من خلال طرح برنامج للطاقة النووية بتخريج كفاءات إماراتية على مستوى الدبلوم العالي وعلى مستوى البكالوريوس، واللي اليوم نحن نفتخر فيهم حقيقة يقومون بتشغيل محطات الطاقة النووية في دولة الإمارات. هذا من الأشياء اللي بالفعل نحن استفدنا منهم وتعلمنا منهم. فإذا نظرنا على بشكل أعم شوي بشكل أكثر راح نلاحظ أن اليوم من التجارب الحقيقة أو التغييرات اللي نحن نمر فيها في نظامنا التعليمي هي المدرسة الإماراتية. والمدرسة الإماراتية وضع لها رؤية طموحة جدا تضع طلابنا وطالباتنا في مسارات تعليمية من مراحل عمرية مبكرة. فاليوم أصبح عندنا اليوم برنامج النخبة والبرنامج المتقدم، المسار المتقدم والمسار العام، إضافة إلى طبعا برامج التعليم الفني والتقني. وهذه رؤية المدرسة الإماراتية، بحيث أن ننقل بعض المهارات لطلابنا وطالباتنا في المرحلة الثانوية وقبل، ويكونون متمكنين من هذه المهارات بحيث لما يتم التحاقهم بالجامعات والكليات سواء في الدولة أو خارج الدولة يكونون على المسار المهني الصحيح. وحقيقة تشكر الجهود لوزارة التربية والتعليم على وضع هذا النموذج اللي على فكرة يحاكي بشكل كبير النموذج السنغافوري. إذا نظرنا على مستوى التعليم العالي، هناك عدد من المؤسسات اللي في الفترة الأخيرة، ذكرت قبل شوي أبو ظبي بوليتكنيك، وتكلمنا عن البرامج الفنية والتقنية اللي أصبحت مهمة في نظامنا التعليمي اليوم، وأشار لها المتحدث من كوريا الجنوبية. ونحن في كليات التقنية العليا كذلك قمنا أن نتأكد أن مناهجنا تواكب هذه التغيرات والتحديات اللي نحن نمر فيها اليوم في نظامنا التعليمي. هذا الكليب اللي بعرضه لكم بشكل سريع يبين شو هي التحديات اللي موجودة عندنا اليوم في نظامنا التعليمي اللي معظم دول العالم على فكرة تواجهها، بس كذلك نرجع ونقول استفدنا من بعض التجارب في الدول الأخرى.
تواجهنا الحياة بتحديات كثيرة، والتاريخ البشري يثبت قدرتنا على اتخاذ القرار الصحيح من خلال تحديد الهدف والاستكشاف والمثابرة والإنجاز والبناء. 50 سنة من النجاح. لكن الغد ينتظر قرارك أنت. نعيش اليوم في ثورة القرن 21 من خلال المرونة والتكيف وزيادة فرص العمل لتشجيع الإبداع وزيادة الأفق من أجل مستقبل أفضل وجيل برؤى عالمية. هل قمت باتخاذ قرارك؟ تعليم أفضل، أمة أفضل، مستقبل أفضل. كليات التقنية العليا.
طبعا هو بدون شك التعليم مثل ما ذكرنا قبل شوي هو حجر الزاوية لتغيير وللتطور وللتنمية الشاملة. رؤية كليات التقنية العليا هي مستمدة من رؤية قيادتنا الرشيدة وكيف نواكب التغيرات. في الفيديو كليب هذا اللي شفناه أن نحن اليوم نواجه تحديات كبيرة المستقبلية، وشبهنا هذا المستقبل بالنمر. كيف أواجه هذا النمر؟ هل أن أهرب منه أو أروض هذا النمر؟ فلذلك لما نتكلم عن كليات التقنية وكيف أن نضع نظام تعليمي يجذب طلابنا ويعني نقدر نحقق الكوادر الوطنية اللي محتاجين لها، بنمر بشكل سريع ما هي الخطط والبرامج اللي حطيناها. كليات التقنية تعتبر أكبر مؤسسة تعليم عالي في دولة الإمارات، تضم أكثر من 23,000 طالب وطالبة، 17 كامبس على مستوى الدولة. كليات التقنية لها عراقة ما يقارب 30 سنة، وعندنا خريجين يتجاوز 70,000 طالب وطالبة. بس طبعا احنا محتاجين إلى اللي نسميه الجيل الثاني لكليات التقنية، الجيل الثاني اللي هو يواكب هذه التغيرات والتحديات. يمكن نقدر نختصر هذه التحديات اليوم موجودة أمامنا في 3 أشياء. الثورة الصناعية الرابعة اللي لها أثر كبير على حياتنا اليومية أصبحت اليوم من خلال الذكاء الاصطناعي وغيره. أن كيف نتعامل مع هذا الجيل اللي نسميه جيل الآيباد، أو الجيل اللي أصبحت التكنولوجيا جزء من حياته اليومية، وكيف نثير شغف هذا الجيل، وكيف نحضر شبابنا وشاباتنا وطلابنا وطالباتنا لوظائف لم توجد بعد، لا نعرف عنها، لأن التغير التكنولوجي اللي صاير اليوم يفرض علينا، معناته في وظائف راح تختفي خلال ال4 وال5 سنوات الجاية. فكيف نعد طلابنا لهذه الوظائف اللي نحن ما ندري عنها؟ هذا تحدي كبير بالنسبة لنا نحن كتربويين. بس لما نتكلم عن الفرص الموجودة في دولة الإمارات، بدون شك أن القطاع الخاص وريادة الأعمال من أهم الفرص اللي موجودة عندنا في الدولة. فلذلك معظم الشواغر اللي نحن نتكلم عنها موجودة في القطاع الخاص، ونسبة الإماراتيين الموجودين في القطاع الخاص ما زالت محدودة جدا. فكيف ندفع بطلابنا إلى القطاع الخاص؟ اللي نبغى نحققه من خلال رؤية الجيل الثاني لكليات التقنية العليا هو الوصول إلى توظيف 100% لخريجينا قبل خروج من أبواب كليات التقنية. أصبحنا اليوم تعهدنا أمام حكومتنا الرشيدة وأمام قيادتنا وأيام مجلس الوزراء أن استراتيجية كليات التقنية تضمن وظيفة عقد عمل لخريج قبل لا يطلع من أبواب كليات التقنية. هذه أصبحت جزء من مسؤوليتنا، لأن إذا كانت مناهجنا وبرامجنا لا تواكب احتياجات سوق العمل فمعناته في عندنا مشكلة في مناهجنا وبرامجنا اليوم. إذا حد منكم سألني قال لي أنت بتوصل 100%، طيب كم نسبة اليوم؟ اليوم نحن نتكلم عن نسبة خريجين اللي يتوظفون فور التخرج تقريبا 71%. وعلى فكرة 71% ما زالت تعتبر أعلى نسبة من ناحية النسبة ومن ناحية الأرقام كذلك، باعتبار نحن أكبر مؤسسة تعليم عالي في دولة الإمارات مقارنة بجميع المؤسسات التعليمية موجودة في الدولة اليوم. ما زالت النسبة الأعلى، لكن نحن حقيقة طموحنا نوصل إلى 100% من خريجين يحصلون على هذه الوظيفة. طيب كيف نقدر نحقق هذا الهدف الطموح هذا؟ كليات التقنية تركز على الشريحة اللي هي في النص نحن نسميها شريحة المشغلين، شريحة الفنيين، شريحة التقنيين، شريحة المشرفين. وهذا على فكرة يحاكي الهرم الوظيفي في أي مؤسسة صناعية. عندنا البيس من الاسيستنت والكليرس او التريدز نسميهم، وعندنا اللي هو الR&D's البحث والتطوير على التب البيراميد هذا او هذا الهرم الوظيفي. كليات التقنية مسؤولة عن الشريحة اللي في النص. فنحن اليوم في كليات التقنية نسعى ان يكون عندنا مخرجات تعطي هذه الفرص الوظيفية لخريجينا في هذه الشريحة اللي في النص، اللي هي نحن نتكلم عن شريحة المشغلين والفنيين اللي نحن احوج ما نكون اليها في دولة الإمارات. كيف وضعنا نظامنا التعليمي؟ نحن نتكلم عن أكبر عدد من طلاب يلتحقون في كليات التقنية لهم قدرات مختلفة. فنبدأ من البرامج الأساسية اللي هو سكيلد ووركر، برنامج لمدة سنة، إلى برامج الدبلوم والدبلوم العالي، ثم إلى البكالوريوس. طبعا الطالب أو الطالبة عندنا الحرية إن شاء الله، عندنا الحرية للطالب أو الطالبة أن يعني تلتحق بسوق العمل أو يلتحق الطالب بسوق العمل مثلا على مرحلة معينة، ويرجع يكمل بعد فترة مثلا إذا بيكمل تعليمه الدراسي سواء على البكالوريوس أو حتى على مستوى برامج الدبلوم العالي. فهذا يعطينا مرونة في نظامنا التعليمي ويضمن فرص للجميع. احنا رفعنا شعار نو إماراتي ليفت بيهايند، معناته كل طالب وطالب إماراتي نحن مسؤولين عنهم، نوفر لهم أحسن فرصة تعليم ونضمن لهم من خلاله وظيفة أيا كانت قدراتهم وأيا كانت اهتماماتهم. وضعنا ما نسميه نحن بالتعليم الهجين اللي هو الهايبرد إديوكيشن. والتعليم الهجين المقصود فيه هو هجين ما بين الأكاديمي والفني، الفوكيشنال والأكاديميك. لما نضمن أن تعليمنا تعليم تطبيقي، تعليم له بروفيشنال كواليفيكيشن إلى جانب الشهادة الأكاديمية. الشهادة الأكاديمية تعطي فرصة للطالب أنه يرتقي في السلم الأكاديمي في المستقبل، لكن الجانب الفني أو الجانب الفوكيشنال تضمن وظيفة لهذا الخريج، خصوصا لما يكون على مستوى عالي من المهنية والاحترافية لما يتخرج. فدمجنا ما بين الشهادات المهنية الاحترافية والشهادة الأكاديمية، بحيث أن الطالب والطالبة فور تخرجهم يكونوا حاصلين على هذه الشهادتين. طيب ما هي الشهادات الاحترافية والمهنية؟ الشهادات الاحترافية والمهنية حددناها في كل تخصص وفي كل برنامج موجود عندنا. طبعا مش اللي نحن نعطي الشهادة الاحترافية والمهنية، نحن نعطي الشهادة الأكاديمية، ولكن الشهادة الاحترافية هي تأتي من ثيرد بارتي نحن نسميها، وهذه قائمة الشهادات الاحترافية اللي اعتمدناها واللي تعاقدنا مع هذه الاسوشيشنز أو هذه المؤسسات لضمان كل خريج يحصل عليها. فهذه ليست عملية اختيارية للطالب، هي عملية لكل طالب يحصل على حسب التخصص على هذه الشهادات المهنية اللي تضمن له وظيفة. وحقيقة اليوم في سوق العمل اللي يبحث عنه هذه الشهادات المهنية أكثر من الشهادة الأكاديمية، لأن هذه الشهادة المهنية والاحترافية هي نوع من الكواليتي أشورنس، ضمان للجودة لهذا الخريج أنه بالفعل على كفاءة وعلى قدرات عالية أنه يقدر يقوم بالعمل فور تخرجه، ولا يحتاج إلى سنة أو سنتين من التدريب الإضافي بعد التخرج. الجميل في هذه الشهادات المهنية الاحترافية، نحن تكلمنا قبل شوي من التحديات، أن احنا كيف راح نجهز طلابنا لوظائف لم توجد بعد، وهذا سؤال محير. لكن لما تكون عندي الشهادة المهنية، لأنها الشهادة المهنية هذه تواكب تغيرات السوق بشكل دائم، فنحن نستفيد من الموديولز أو برامج التدريبية الموجودة في هذه الشهادات وتكون جزء من مناهجنا الأكاديمية. لذلك نحن نضمن مواكبتنا المستمرة لمتغيرات سوق العمل، اللي هي نحن قلنا التكنولوجيا اللي بدأت تفرض علينا. فهناك مجموعة من أو حزمة من هذه الشهادات في تخصصات مختلفة لجميع طلابنا يمرون فيها خلال التخرج. رؤية الجيل الثاني لكليات التقنية وضعت مؤشرات. طبعا نحن هذا الكلام مش كلام نظري وكلام جميل ووعود نحن ما نقدر ننفذها. وضعنا KPIs مؤشرات أداء، 320 مؤشر أداء نحن محاسبين فيها أمام مجلس الوزراء وبتقارير دورية كيف نحققها، أن نوصل للهدف الأسمى وهو 100% من خريجينا يضمنون على وظائف فور تخرجهم. وضعنا مجموعة كبيرة من المؤشرات من خلال 25 مبادرة استراتيجية. وبعض المؤشرات اللي يعني just to highlight أن حتى طلابنا نسعى أن يكون لهم سبونسر خلال فترة دراستهم وهم موجودين ما زالوا على مقاعد الدراسة لا يقل عن 50%. نضمن أن جميع برامجنا مواكبة لمتغيرات الثورة الصناعية والمهارات المطلوبة لسوق العمل، مهارات القرن الحادي والعشرين. لما نضمن طبعا الامبلوير ساتسفاكشن، رضا الجهات التوظيف أول ما يعينون طلابنا أنهم بالفعل على المستوى المطلوب. طبعا هناك ابتكارات جديدة في طرق التدريس اللي تثير شغف الطالب، وهاي من الأشياء الكثيرة اللي ركزنا عليها، منها اللي سميناها فضاءات الابتكار والانوفيشن سبيس، واستخدام التقنيات الحديثة للتعلم باستخدام الموبايل ليرنينج والأجهزة الحديثة والسيميليترز والمحاكاة والآبس الموجودة، أصبحت جزء لا يتجزأ من نظامنا التعليمي اليوم. نبغى نضمن كذلك الجانب الأكاديمي، نحافظ على الأكاديميك ريجر من خلال الاعتماد الأكاديمي، وكذلك من خلال نكون من التوب 10 من المؤسسات التعليمية اللي في النظام الرانكينج. هذه كلها تضعنا اليوم بمؤشرات. طبعا نضيف عليها أن نضمن مخرجاتنا نرتقي ونوصل لخريجينا أن يكونون كوادر إماراتية في دولة الإمارات. نحن بدون شك
دكتور the time is up.
أحوج ما نكون لكل عقل إماراتي وإماراتي، وهذا اللي دائما يعني صاحب السمو أكد عليه في لقائنا معه، قيادتنا الرشيدة تؤكد عليه دائما. اليوم نحن ما نقدر نخسر أي طالب أو طالبة من نظامنا التعليمي، وأن يكونون خريجين على نوعية، وهذه النوعية اللي صاحب السمو تأكد عليها خلال لقائنا معه، نوعية يكونون كفاءات إماراتية يقودون الدولة في تشغيل مؤسساتنا الصناعية ومؤسساتنا الحكومية. فإن شاء الله بدون شك أن في الخطة المئوية لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة راح يكون يعني كليات التقنية هي اللي راح تضع الأساس لتطوير شبابنا وشاباتنا أن نحقق لهم هذا الطموح بإذن الله. شكرا على حسن الاستماع، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا.
Thank you, Professor.
For this interesting lecture. You covered many issues here, such as you talked about the important or the importance of education and leadership, and also the advantages of the Korean and the Singapore educational systems, and also the Emirati school model, which has several tracks such as the elite one, and also you have talked about the higher colleges of technology here in the UAE, and also the higher education model. And now with our fourth and last guest for this morning, His Excellency Mr. Badr Salim Sultan Al-Ulama, who will be delivering lecture also entitled UAE Development Experience, Lesson Learned from the Experiences of Korea and Singapore. Mr. Badr Al-Ulama is Director of Aerospace for the Aerospace Renewable and Information Communities Technology. For Mubadala, in his role, Badr oversees Mubadala's aerospace sector to establish its global network of stakeholders and strategic partnerships. Mr. Badr plays a vital role in overseeing the growth of Nibras Al Ain Aerospace Park, which is a joint initiative between Mubadala and Abu Dhabi Airports Company. Previously, he's the Chief Executive Officer of Strata for 6 years. Mr. Badr had oversight into key initiatives leading to the company's expansion in the aerospace industry. During his tenure at Strata, established a new partnership with leading worldwide OEMs such as Airbus and Boeing. Mr. Badr serves a member of the Global Agenda Council for the Future of Manufacturing of the World Economic Forum. Elsewhere, he is the chairman of Bidayat, the region's leading child care company, and the president of Harvard Club of the UAE. Mr. Badr holds a bachelor's degree in Sharia and Law from the UAE University and an LLM degree from Harvard Law School. Mr. Badr, you have 20 minutes. The floor is yours.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Peace be with you.
أعتذر للجميع أني بتحدث باللغة الإنجليزية. Most difficult situation to be in is to be the last speaker of the day. And I was just saying in Arabic that I will be speaking in English because I do not want to make things more difficult, especially since I won't be having slides. And I'll be speaking about a story. I'd rather take everyone through what we in Abu Dhabi, and specifically the United Arab Emirates, have experienced out of lessons learned from both South Korea and Singapore, but more so about what we have learned during this path and developed our own sort of experiences which we can share with the rest of the world. So those of you that do know about the United Arab Emirates, we come up from a sort of an economic background of traders. We buy and sell goods from all around the world, being in the between the crossroads of the East and West, and we have grown up in that kind of sort of system, right? So when you look at us specifically, you would see a lot of building owners, a lot of landowners, a lot of shops that buy and sell goods, but very little comes to us in the form of makers. So what my presentation or what my talk is going to be about is an actual translation of Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Shamsi's presentation. Is taking that education foundation and translating it into action on the ground. And the action on the ground is the story that I would like to share with everyone. So starting off with the diversification plan for Abu Dhabi, the Economic Vision 2030. And you can hear, obviously, Dr. Abdul Latif started off his presentation by talking about the importance of having a strong vision, a realistic vision with strong leadership. One cannot come without the other. And very importantly, the Vision 2030 was focusing on probably 3 key parameters. One being knowledge intensive, value creation, and socioeconomic development. Whatever we have been focusing on in terms of economic development within the country, those 3 factors were critical to every investment or every project we have taken forward in Abu Dhabi. And taking that vision, or actually translating that vision, there were custodians. The custodians, one of which I represent today, is Mubadala Investment Company, but there were other custodians as well, each given a certain responsibility. And the responsibility was to make sure that value creation can be created in country, but focusing on the strengths and not the weaknesses of what the country has. So, in our perspective, let me speak about aerospace. We've taken that ultimate vision of saying we would like to create an aerospace cluster here. Start off with the conversation about being a trader mentality. Having the trader mentality, we have two large airlines, Emirates and Etihad. We serve countries, people from all around the world, and obviously a lot of people go through transit between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But when we ask ourselves, where is the value creation? Where is the make part of what we can build in country? That remained an open question. So we took the aerospace as an objective, and we said, within the world of aerospace, we have multiple different sectors for us to look into. From making parts, to assembling the parts, to fixing the parts, to teaching people how to fly an aircraft. And we said in that world of all these different types of opportunities and activities, let us focus specifically on making aircraft parts. And by making aircraft parts, I'm talking about our investment in the city of Al Ain, Strata Manufacturing, private joint stock company. Strata Manufacturing started as a dream, in my opinion, because it was set up in the very first instance in probably the most difficult places to set up a manufacturing facility, in the city of Al Ain. The reason I mentioned that it is very difficult to be setting it up in Al Ain versus Abu Dhabi or Dubai, or even Sharjah or Ras Al Khaimah and other parts of the UAE, because Al Ain is predominantly two different types of job sectors. Either you're working for the government in public service, or you're working for the university in education delivery. So to create a manufacturing opportunity in the middle of the desert, and not only going step by step into saying that we will start by making furniture parts and then going into automotive parts and then saying we will develop ourselves into potentially one day aerospace, we were jumping up, going straight up to the aerospace world. And as you can imagine, when you talk about the aerospace world, you're talking about parts that go on an aircraft, in the case of the Airbus A380 carrying over 500 passengers, and the lives of 500 passengers are dependent on the quality and safety of those aircrafts. So very specifically, when we decided to make that investment, this came in the form of a vision. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and the Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, saw a vision for Al Ain. With all those graduates that are coming out of the universities, and with the fact that there is land and an airport, why couldn't we create an aerospace cluster in Al Ain? Specifically with a large population of UAE nationals that were driven, motivated, and determined to contribute back to the country. So taking that very sort of macro scale vision into context, how do we translate all of that into something on the ground? 2010, we broke ground. 2009, we broke ground in September. July 2010, we had a factory that was built and ready for production. In September of 2010, we manufactured our first aircraft parts that went on an Airbus A330. We started off with a commitment, a partnership commitment with Airbus of $1 billion, 3.675 billion dirhams, and we grew it to $7.5 billion. So over 30 billion dirhams is what Strata has today as contracts to manufacture parts in 6 years. And the story that I keep on telling people is that if there was a question mark about our capability, if there was doubt that we could not manufacture good aircraft parts, then why would we have 30 billion dirhams of workload ready and available to us to actually manufacture? In this factory today, there are over 750 people. Half are Emiratis. Out of all the Emiratis that you will meet in the factory, 9 out of 10 are women. Again, we are trying to break the stereotype of this region being dominated by men working in factories, or not even working in factories, but working in general, in strata. 9 out of 10 Emiratis, so over 300, let's say about 400 people, almost 300 to 350 people are women. And again, we're not talking about admin jobs. As you saw from Dr. Abdulatif al-Shamsi's presentation, this is technical jobs. They are people on the shop floor. They are the ones that are making the aircraft parts, not me at the time when I was there. I was the one who was sitting in admin and doing pretty much the easy stuff. The ladies were on the shop floor making those aircraft parts. And some of those ladies, obviously, they were high school leavers. They never continued to get a degree. They were mothers of 5 or 6 kids. They were divorcees. They were married to non-nationals. They were, some of them, living on the side of Amman, but commuting every day to Al-Ain. But they were the ones that built Strata to the success story that it is today. And they did it. They grew in their opportunity from being operators to technicians to team leaders, and some of them became supervisors in 6 years. The common factor is always people assume that I may have had an influence in actually promoting people. I never interfered in the process of promotion or development. My job was to encourage and coach. The responsibility of making sure that somebody was ready for the job was people on the shop floor. The people, the 50% of the people that came from existing industries from all around the world. We had over 30 nationalities there. Anyhow, the story I want to leave with you, and this is a story that I actually feel very emotional about, was back in April of last year, we had a very severe storm, both in Abu Dhabi and in Al-Ain, and across Dubai as well. And the storm was extremely bad that the health and safety of individuals within the factory was at risk. So I let everybody go home. And I said, it's not worth manufacturing aircraft parts at the expense of your lives. Please go home, make sure you are safe, make sure your loved ones are safe, and stay there until further notice. Day 1, day 2, we asked everybody to stay at home. Day 3, we realized that we have a problem. Because obviously in this world, delivery is everything. You cannot miss one delivery to the customer, Airbus and Boeing. I should have mentioned actually in the very beginning that Strata today, every single part it manufactures, it is the only supplier in the world. So if Strata stops manufacturing aircraft parts, this is not spare parts, this is new parts. No aircrafts can be delivered, not for Emirates, not for Etihad, not for Delta, not for British Airways, not for any other airline, not for Singapore Airlines, not for South Korea Airlines, not for ASEAN, not for anyone. So this is how critical the supply chain is with respect to the role that Strata plays. Now anyhow, we had a storm, day 1, day 2, we were closed, and day 3, we were running into an issue. The first thing we did is we called every UAE, Emirati, team leader and supervisor and said, we have a problem. And if we do not get everybody back inside the factory, we are going to run into penalties. And if we run into penalties, this starts affecting our reputation with our customers. And at this point in time, we cannot allow anything to affect the reputation of the United Arab Emirates or Mubadala or Strata. Within 1 hour, 180 people walked into that factory at 7 p.m. and worked all the way to 5 a.m. just to catch up, just to make sure that we are not going to miss a delivery to impact the reputation of the country or the company. Now, in the context of what we have learned from South Korea and Singapore, let me start off by South Korea. The diversification plan of the United Arab Emirates was a self-started initiative. Unlike Singapore and South Korea, the UAE was rich in resources. Yet we took it upon ourselves to create a diversification plan such that not today and not tomorrow, but 50 or 100 years from now, we will be sustainable. And we will be just as well off today, in the future, as we are today. From the Singaporean side, which I really was a big fan of, and I appreciated a lot, was the discipline. Discipline but sincerity. In an environment where the first job that you have is to make aircraft parts, and you have no history, no background in actually making aircraft parts, to actually hold people accountable, but make them understand why are they accountable. Most jobs in the UAE, you'll be working for 8 hours. In Strata, you're working 8.5 hours a day, 5 days a week. So you're crossing 42.5 hours a week, working, not sitting on a desk. I take it easy because I sit on a desk and I'm actually working on a computer. These are people working on the shop floor. So they're bending and they're carrying stuff and they're moving stuff and they're making sure that the quality of the products are not compromised. Having that kind of environment was what we looked into Singapore, and understanding how the Singaporean model was to encourage the best out of their people, make the best come out of them by imposing discipline but with sincerity. And I think that is one thing that we did very well at Strata. Specifically what we have grown into now, so from making aircraft parts on Boeing and Airbus, whether it is a 330, a 340, a 350, a 380, or a Boeing 777 or a Boeing 787, today any one of those aircrafts have exclusive parts made in the city of Al Ain by UAE nationals. Going forward, we are investing into actually making engine component parts for Rolls-Royce. Again, that was a contractual commitment from Rolls-Royce for $1.5 billion. So 6.5 to 7 billion dirhams worth of engine components that are going to go on aircraft will be made in the city of Al Ain. Moreover, we have even looked into an aircraft in its sense. It pretty much looks like any other aircraft. It's not going to change. It has 2 wings and it has pretty much 2 engines on those large aircrafts, right? So the only thing that changes on an aircraft, it cannot aerodynamically change, is the engine or the material. Those are the 2 only things that will change on a future aircraft. We are going to be manufacturing the material that will go into every Boeing 777X program. So not only are we making the parts, we will be making the carbon fiber composite, the fabric that is used to make aircraft parts for every 777X aircraft that Boeing will manufacture for the next 30 to 40 years. Translating a vision into reality is a responsibility that we take very seriously in the UAE. And this is why we believe that the lessons learned from countries such as South Korea or Singapore are important to us, because we can see what other countries have done. We can adopt the things that we believe are important to our culture, our society, our business acumen. And I can assure everyone sitting around here, because you will see a lot of UAE nationals sitting in the crowd, that we have the talent, the brains, the commitment, and the dedication to deliver results. But we must not forget, what does the future hold? And again, I revert back to Dr. Abdul Latif Al-Shamsi, who had a very key component reflected there. الثورة الصناعية الرابعة, or the 4th Industrial Revolution, will be disruptive. Now, whether we would like to see at the South Korean model, or we would like to see at the Singaporean model, or we'd like to see at the Finnish model from Finland, the reality is the 4th Industrial Revolution.
Mr. Al-Ulama, you have 5 minutes.
Sure. The 4th Industrial Revolution is disrupting things. It is no longer about innovation through efficiency, but it is about innovation through disruption. Meaning the way that we do business today will completely change in the very near future. It will not be the same. Meaning the individuals that we are graduating today from the universities, we're not talking about the jobs of the future. We are graduating people into jobs that may not exist in the future. And that is the danger. And that is the risk we are running into by not considering the full impact of the 4th Industrial Revolution. The generation that we are dealing with today, and this is again a reflection of what I saw in terms of the presentations, with respect to, again, obviously having very prominent academics sitting in the panel, is that we are dealing with a generation of millennials, a generation of entitlement. This is not the same generation that was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that felt that hard work had to be structured, whether it was structured into 4 buckets or it was structured into 3 buckets. This is no longer the game. The game is a millennial feels entitled, and a millennial likes to work at his comfort, at his choice, and at his pace. And the sooner we realize that the millennial is the future customer, the future employee, the future employer, the future R&D technician or scientist, the future consumer, the sooner we are going to be able to adopt ourselves for a sustainable future. I would like to conclude my presentation and my story, actually, that we have taken values into everything we have done. We have taken vision, we have taken leadership, we have taken sincerity, and we have taken delivery. But the most important factor that I would like to stress on is that the UAE pretty much I would like to say is very different from other countries in the sense that we do not like to see ourselves as a competitor to other countries. We like to see ourselves as a collaborator, as a complementer, that the future of not just this country, but the future of the world are intertwined. We are connected. And rather than partnering with other companies on profit, we would rather partner with other countries and other companies on outcomes. Outcomes that benefit them and benefit us. This is a true win-win approach. I hope I did not bore you by being the last one who's speaking, but it was very important for me actually after listening to my colleagues speak about their experiences, about obviously the strong foundation that they have created in their countries, but also in our country, a true translation and a true reflection of how it looks into practice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Today, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Ulma, for your thought and for sharing stories and information about Strata. In this lecture, you have talked about also many things, such as the importance of leadership and strong vision. You talk about Strata and manufacturing in Al Ain and the share of the UAE nationals in Strata. Also, you have covered the importance of reputation of this company, and also the last thing that you've mentioned, which is that we see ourselves as a collaborator than competitors with others. So it's very much an idea which needs deep thought about this one. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will open the floor for questions and answers. We have almost 20 minutes or less, so please, we will take first 3 questions. Please, whoever has a question, to introduce themselves and to have a short question or comment. Yeah, please.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
سالم المعمري بلدية مدينة أبو ظبي. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your well-informed presentations. I would like to direct my questions to the UAE local guys, Dr. Abdul Latif and Mr. Al-Ulama. Dr. Abdul Latif, how do you see the HCT version 2 competing with the private universities coming up in the knowledge centers throughout the UAE? And Dr. Al-Ulama, you have mentioned in your presentation that the 4th generation of industrial revolution will affect all the jobs. So how Strata will be combating this? I can make an example. The 3D printing is coming up, and it's automated cycle of printing any parts. So how are you going to compete with this technology and offering jobs to the UAE national line? Thank you.
Another question? Yes, please.
بسم الله. أنا الدكتور نواف من مركز بحوث شرطة الشارقة. حقيقة عندي مداخلة تتعلق بالدكتور عبد اللطيف الشامسي. أثار الدكتور عبد اللطيف تخوف من وظائف المستقبل وأنهم في كليات التقنية. طبعا أنا ما أقدر أوفيهم يعني وأذكر جهودهم في هذه اللحظات، بالعكس هي جهودهم واضحة للعيان، لكن ذكر قال إنه والله إحنا علشان نحاول نتغلب على الوظائف المستقبلية نواكب التغيرات أول بأول بما يخدم سوق العمل. أنا أعتقد أن إحنا عندنا تجربة هنا في دولة الإمارات هي جديرة يعني بالاهتمام، خصوصا أنا أحب أذكرها للأشخاص اللي هم من خارج دولة الإمارات، اللي هي استراتيجية الإمارات لاستشراف المستقبل. هذه الاستراتيجية تم يعني إحنا طبقناها حقيقة بالقيادة العامة لشرطة الشارقة، ولاستشراف مستقبل الحالة الأمنية لسنة 2030 وفق خطة علمية معنية باستشراف المستقبل. فأعتقد التجربة يعني جديرة بأنكم تأخذونها بعين الاعتبار في عملية استشراف وظائف المستقبل حتى نستطيع أن نتغلب على الوظائف، لا سيما أن في المجال التقني هناك ما يسمى حياة المنتج. في الجانب التقني ما نستطيع أن نستشرف لأكثر من سنتين، وشكرا لذلك.
On your product. Thank you. We'll take one more question. The lady sitting at the back, please. Please be with.
I'm employee of Abu Dhabi Airport Company. My question is to Dr. Sang Unam regarding the class capacity. Your Excellency, you have mentioned it was 80 the capacity in class, and you went down to 15 in class today. I have 3 questions. Which year was that, and how long it took to reach 15, and how it was done, and why? Thank you.
والحين بنفتح مجال للأجوبة. الدكتور عبد اللطيف تفضل. اللي تشوفه دكتور.
اوكي، بالنسبه لملاحظه دكتور سالم ان يعني هل احنا كومبيتيتورز مع الجامعات الخاصه؟ اكيد لا طبعا. مثل ما قال سعاده بدر العلماء، ان احنا وي كومبلمنت وي دونت كومبيت. كليات التقنيه نظامها التعليمي لشريحه معينه انا ذكرتها في البرزنتيشن استهدفها، شريحه المشغلين والتقنيين والفنيين. فنحن محتاجين الى هذا النوع من هذا. هو على غرار على فكره نظام البوليتكنيكس اللي مثلا في سنغافوره. فاكيد يعني احنا اليوم في دوله الامارات الحاجه الى تعليم نوعي في ازدياد مستمر، والحاجه الى المؤسسات التعليميه اللي موجوده اليوم سواء من القطاع الحكومي او القطاع الخاص يعني دائما عليها طلب وفي حاجه مستمره، لان في جروث حقيقي صاير ليس فقط للمواطنين دوله الامارات ولكن للمقيمين في الدوله كذلك. يمكن الدكتور مروان أشار إلى موضوع وظائف المستقبل والاستشراف لوظائف المستقبل. بدون شك يعني الاستراتيجية مهمة، ونحن نبغى نتعلم من الأشياء اللي أنتم سويتوها عندكم في الشارجة. أصبح نحن ملزمين في جميع مؤسساتنا الاتحادية اليوم أن يكون على مستوى نائب مدير المجمع لاستشراف المستقبل موجود عندنا، هذه الوظيفة موجودة، وفي فريق عمل يقوم باستشراف المستقبل من خلال مثل ما تفضلت بدراسة علمية مهمة. وطبعا هذا حتى كتخصص مطروح اليوم جديد كمنهاج، وعلى فكرة هاي من المناهج اللي نحن الآن في كليات التقنية في صدد طرحها كذلك على مستوى الدبلوم وعلى مستوى البكالوريوس. ولكن لما نتكلم عن وظائف المستقبل نحن تفرض علينا التكنولوجيا مثل ما قلت له يعني لايف تايم معين لأي منتج تقني، والمنتج التقني حتى ما يوصل سنتين يمكن 6 شهور وينتهي، لأن التقنيات تتغير بشكل مستمر وبشكل يعني تفرض علينا بين يوم وليلة. فنحن قلنا يعني هل نحن راح نغير مناهجنا دائما؟ كمؤسسة تعليمية لما تطرح المنهاج وخصوصا على برامج البكالوريوس ما تقدر تغيرها، يعني أنت في النهاية عندك نظام أكاديمي تعليمي خلال 4 سنوات هذا المنهاج موجود. ولكن احنا اللي قلنا من خلال إدماج الشهادات المهنية والاحترافية من المؤسسات المهنية اللي خارج اللي تشرف على الوظائف اللي موجودة في المؤسسات الصناعية أو على مستوى العالم طبعا بالانترناشونال ستاندرد، راح يساعدونا أن نحن نواكب هذه التغيرات، نواكب هذه الوظائف الجديدة. فلما يكون عندي هذا الموديول التدريبي جزء من منهاج التعليمي، أنا أضمن من خلاله أن التغيرات اللي تصير في التقنيات موجودة من خلال هذا الموديول. فهذا يمكن يعني راح يساعدنا أن نخفف خلينا نقول تغيرات وظائف المستقبل بشكل كبير.
شكرا دكتور. في أسئلة إضافية؟ Yes, I'm sorry. Dr. I think there was a question for you.
Well, when I was in the elementary school in the 1950s, as I told you, it was very common that one class has more than 80 students. But by 1965, for example, we have the average of 65 students per class. And now, in the case of elementary school, about 22 or 3. And for middle and high school, in the middle of 1960s, the average class size used to be about 60, now about 30, half. Well, Korea spent roughly 20% of all government budget on education, which is about 4% of GDP. So what we did was, using this budget, we continued to build the new schools. And another, maybe more important factor was that our fertility rate declined consistently. And in the rural, remote areas, we don't have enough students to maintain our schools, so schools are closed or confined. So these democratic factors, as well as our continuous spending on education, contributed to this drastic reduction of the class sizes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? No. Sorry.
Just repeat the question for the sake of the audience. You asked about how 3D printing can be disruptive to what we have created in Strata today in terms of, let me say, to a certain degree, manual manufacturing processes. And similar to what the UAE has done at the starting point of creating an economic diversification plan and investing in aerospace and then specifically choosing aerostructures or aircraft parts, we have been obviously very involved with what is going on with respect to the fourth industrial revolution, to the extent that the UAE, alongside the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, are championing the world's first global manufacturing and industrialization summit that was held in Abu Dhabi in March to actually talk about the impact of fourth industrial revolution technologies on manufacturing and obviously the impact that it creates on universities or students or even our daily lives in terms of consumers. Very specifically, to answer your question, is we used this forum to actually create partnerships for outcomes. So we worked with Siemens and Etihad Airways to develop, with Strata, to develop an aircraft part that would be manufactured through 3D printing. And we started in November, and by the first week of March, we had certified the first 3D printed interior aircraft part for Etihad that was done in the Middle East and North Africa region. Etihad became the first airline in the world that is able to certify 3D printed parts inside after Boeing and Airbus. So in terms of us doing this, we have to always be mindful that when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution or 3D printing specifically, it is not a nice to have. It has to solve a problem. So when we apply those technologies, we need to know what the problem is that we are trying to solve. And specifically on Etihad, this is actually quite interesting to share. They have a piece inside the aircraft that when people come in, they put their elbows or they put their bags and they break it. So you're a passenger that leaves Abu Dhabi and goes to London, and you broke that little piece, and then the aircraft has to come back from London to Abu Dhabi, and a passenger sits there and sees this TV piece is broken, and it does not reflect well on the brand and the image of Etihad. So today, you can actually 3D print the part in London without having to have any inventory, any spare parts, and you can fit it on the aircraft, and it is certified and qualified by the authorities to be put in there. Now, Etihad can do any 3D printing inside the aircraft today, as long as it's not structural. But this is when you have a need, and then you have the commitment, you can translate it into a result.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Ulama. Yes, please.
سالم الخروصي من مجلس أبو ظبي للتعليم. سؤالي للدكتور سانغ، الأستاذ الدكتور سانغ، كيف تستفيد الحكومة الكورية من نتائج البحوث والدراسات التي تجرى وبالأخص في مجال التعليم؟ هذا سؤالي الأول، وإذا يسمح الوقت بسؤال آخر بسيط. ما هي اللغة المستخدمة في التدريس في مدارس كوريا؟ شكرا.
Well, even though, we have been emphasizing English language, I think I understand we start to teach English from the later years of primary school, even though many parents send their children to, English learning kindergarten. Well, officially, of course, all the subjects are conducted in Korean language in schools. But in higher educational institutes like KAIST and others, we are starting to offering many, increasing number of courses in English. That's not so difficult because most of the students, most of the professors were trained in other countries, and they are familiar with. Students are also eager to learn English. And in the area of education, we do have, as far as I know, 2 government research institutes. One is so-called Education Development Institute. Of course, they are devoting to research activities of all the academic, affairs as well as education policy. And we also have another research institute specializing on, human resource developments, like vocational education and training issues. And they are, I am not in a position to what extent they are contributing to educational policy and general improvements of education in Korea, but they are the 2 most important research institutes, and from their website, you can find out their research activities and contributions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor. More questions? تفضل معلي. الشيخ.
سعادة الأخ بدر العلماء، الحقيقة هني القيادة صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد على رؤية ستراتا لإنتاج قطع غيار الطائرات. أعتقد هذه خطوة متقدمة جدا، وأهنيكم على العمل في هذا المجال. لمحة بسيطة بس، إذا ممكن تشرح لنا الميزة التي تتمتع بها ستراتا لإنتاج قطع الغيار. هل هي بسبب النوعية، بسبب التكلفة، أم هو تبادل مصالح مع الشركات العالمية؟ شكرا.
أنا إذنك بس بترجم السؤال باللغة الإنجليزية بس. The question that was asked was what is the advantages that Strata offers to the industry in terms of actually being able to add value back to customers like Airbus and Boeing. صحيح? So specifically today, Strata, one of the biggest challenges that you would face within the industry is capacity. So if Airbus or Boeing were to launch a new aircraft or decided to go from 10 aircrafts a month to 20 aircrafts a month, they need to depend on, first of all, an investor who is able to invest in building up that capacity in terms of either facilities or people, number one. Second point, with respect to what Strata has to offer, is that we are more competitive than the US and France where it comes to the technical workforce. So the salaries that we pay today to our technical workforce, on average between Emiratis and non-Emiratis, is about $3,000 a month. It is cheaper to do it in the UAE than it is to do it in Toulouse in France or to do it in Seattle in the US. However, we are less competitive when it comes to Morocco and the Far East. So we have a disadvantage there. When it comes to the graduating workforce, اللي عندهم شهايد بكالوريوس أو مهندس as an engineer.
Those who have BA or bachelor
competitive when it comes to the people from the US or people from Toulouse. So the key thing for us is to invest in the fourth industrial revolution. The key thing for us is to invest into 3D printing and come up with new technologies to allow us to be able to add value but to sustain competitiveness as the first option. The second option we do have is that we are not selling a UAE story. We are selling a global story. اليوم, when we look at the whole world, you talk about supply chain flexibility, you do not talk about supply chain efficiency. Meaning, if, God forbid, there was something to go wrong in one supplier, it will affect the entire value chain. As the example I was giving today, Strata is the only supplier of those parts. Hence, we bring a lot of risk to our customers. So what we need to do is we need to identify areas of opportunity. So if Morocco or if the Far East have better labor rates, then we will invest there. If the US offers us an opportunity in R&D or innovation, then we will invest there. The story is, Strata is a global company. Investments that we do in Abu Dhabi or that we do as the UAE are in global companies. They are not local companies. And we have to behave, act, and think and operate in an environment of global companies.
شكرا جزيلا. آخر سؤال لو سمحتي السيدة اللي.
السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله.
ميث الكعبي من مجلس أبو ظبي للجودة والمطابقة. سؤالي بوجهه للسيد مانو. على الرغم مما وصلت إليه سنغافورة، لماذا حتى الآن تعتقدون أن جانب الإبداع والابتكار لديكم ضعيف في سنغافورة؟
ممكن تعيدين السؤال؟
على الرغم مما وصلت إليه سنغافورة، لماذا حتى الآن تعتقدون أن جانب الإبداع والابتكار ضعيف لديكم؟ شكرا.
Very quickly, there are several explanations given. One is that our education system is very good at turning out kids who can pass examinations, but who are not actually thinking out of the box. And to move into this very high level of competition that we now face at the frontier of technology, you need people who are not just good at calculating things and getting the exam questions right, but who can actually go beyond that and question the basis of what they are doing and to come up with solutions that are very different from what they have been taught. So I think part of the reason is that our education system is very successful up to a point, but it has not quite reached a point where we can have graduates who can really question, criticize, critique, and go beyond the existing structures. I think that's a main issue there, the education system. Thank you.
شكرا مستر منو. أعتقد الحين خلصنا فترة الأسئلة والآن.
Now I believe the time is up for questions.
Mrs. ليلى.
مية تفضلوا.
المتحدثين في هذه الندوة، والآن أترككم مع الكلمة الختامية لسعادة الأستاذ الدكتور جمال سند السويدي مدير عام المركز، والتي سيلقيها نيابة عن سعادته الأستاذة أحلام كرمستجي، فلتتفضل مشكورة.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يطيب لي أيها الإخوة والأخوات في ختام أعمال هذه الندوة التي عقدت على مدار اليوم، وعنوانها التجربتان التنمويتان لكوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة، دروس مستفادة لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر والتقدير إليكم جميعاً لمشاركتكم في هذه الندوة، وأخص بالشكر هنا مجموعة الخبراء والباحثين الذين أسهموا بأوراق بحثية متميزة سلطت الضوء على مختلف جوانب تجربتي كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة التنمويتين، وطرحت أفكاراً مهمة ومقترحات موضوعية بشأن كيفية استفادة دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة من هاتين التجربتين الناجحتين بما يصب في دعم تجربتها التنموية وبما يخدم أهداف قيادة الدولة الرشيدة في تحقيق التنمية المستدامة. ويسرني أن أتوجه بالشكر إلى الحضور من مسؤولين وباحثين ومختصين وخبراء لما قاموا به من مداخلات أثرت النقاش خلال مختلف جلسات الندوة. الحضور الكريم، لقد تمكنت كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة من إنجاز تجارب تنموية ناجحة عبر تحقيق قفزات هائلة في معدلات النمو الاقتصادي، وذلك خلال فترة قصيرة نسبياً لم تتجاوز العقود الثلاثة، مما ساعدهما على الانتقال من دول فقيرة ذات اقتصادات صغيرة إلى دول متطورة ذات اقتصادات متقدمة. ونتيجة لذلك أصبحت هاتان الدولتان ومعهما بقية دول شرق آسيا التي سميت في عقد التسعينيات من القرن الماضي النمور الآسيوية محط أنظار معظم الاقتصاديين ورجال الأعمال والمهتمين بالشأن الاقتصادي في أنحاء العالم كافة، رغبة في دراسة تجاربها الناجحة والاستفادة منها، وخاصة أن خبراء التنمية والاقتصاد رأوا في تلك التجارب نموذجاً يمكن للدول الأخرى الراغبة في تحقيق التنمية السير على خطاه والاقتداء به والاستفادة منه. وبرغم الأزمة المالية التي تعرضت لها دول شرق آسيا عام 1997، فإن كوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة تمكنتا من الخروج من الأزمة والتغلب عليها من خلال تطبيق إصلاحات اقتصادية وضعها البنك الدولي وصندوق النقد الدولي أسهمت في عودة النمو إلى اقتصاداتهما مرة أخرى. فقد عاود اقتصاد كوريا الجنوبية نموه الاقتصادي واستعاد المعدلات العالية للنمو في معظم القطاعات الاقتصادية والصناعية والاجتماعية. كما أصبحت سنغافورة من أسرع الاقتصادات نمواً في العالم، وارتفع ناتجها المحلي الإجمالي بشكل كبير، وباتت واحدة من المراكز التجارية الرائدة في العالم، وأصبحت مقصداً رئيسياً للاستثمارات الأجنبية. الإخوة والأخوات، من منطلق التزامنا أداء دورنا في مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية بدعم صانع القرار وتقديم المشورة إليه، وإيماناً بأهمية ما قدمتموه من أفكار مهمة وما توصلتم إليه من توصيات هادفة خلال هذه الندوة، فإننا سنعمل على أن تصل تلك الأفكار والتوصيات إلى مختلف الجهات المعنية، سواء داخل دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة أو في دول مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية أو دولنا العربية كافة، من أجل الاستفادة منها في دعم مسيراتها التنموية بما يحقق أهداف التنمية. أشكركم مرة أخرى على تشريفنا بحضور هذه الندوة. وفقكم الله وسدد على طريق الخير خطاكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
في ختام ندوة التجربتان التنمويتان لكوريا الجنوبية وسنغافورة دروس مستفادة لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، أكرر باسم سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور جمال سند السويدي مدير عام مركز الإمارات للدراسات والبحوث الاستراتيجية الشكر والتقدير للمشاركين جميعهم، ولكم أيها الأخوة والأخوات الحضور، وإلى اللقاء في فعالية علمية أخرى، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.